Be very, very clear on the transformation that you create in your audience or for your audience. And that's what people are looking for. They're all looking for some sort of transformation, whether it's, 10 things that they're going to do, whether it's one thing that someone's going to do. One person in an audience of 1,000 is going to walk out of there and be like, that's the thing. That's what you want to be looking for.
Okay, we're here. We're back for another episode of Adventures in Business Live. Everything is looking great. Mandi, how are we doing today?
Money! I have to tell you, I am coming off of a really exciting week I had last week because I flew up to San Francisco for the California Hotel Lodging Association Hospitality Foundation Gala and board meeting. And wow, this organization gives away almost $200,000 in scholarships to students, juniors and seniors, students who are either currently working in hospitality or pursuing a career in hospitality. And it's one of those scholarships where we don't dictate how you use the money. We don't say, well, you have to use it for books or you have to use this for tuition or for housing. We just say, you know what? You're going to be a leader in our industry. We vetted you. We've interviewed you. We know that you're going to be a winner and we trust you to use the money however you want. Like if you want to use it to buy a car, fine. If you want to use it to go to Paris and enhance your hospitality knowledge, fine. Like we believe in lifting up the industry. So it's the one day a year that we actually get to meet the students that won the scholarship. And then the students actually give speeches. So like the students, the top 4 or 5 that will get the highest scholarship amount give speeches. And those are so inspirational. So it was just a great couple of days. It always makes me feel so hopeful for our future. Anybody that says anything about younger generations, just zip that up. They don't know what they're talking about because these students are more prepared, more mature, and more ready to go at age 19 and 20 than I probably was at like 40. So I just feel very encouraged about our future and just another scholarship gala that just really, really rocked. So that's I'm pumped, real pumped
All
up.
right. Pumped up. Okay.
Yeah.
I like
What
it. I like it.
what about you? How's all your speaking of students? How's all
Yeah.
your paper grading? How's the end
This
of the
was
semester coming out?
this the middle of the semester. This was grading week, so I was able to get all the exams, all the projects graded, all the little assignments. So I'm pretty much caught up, which was a lot. So that's good. So now we can head into the back half because now we're week 10 out of 16 or 17. So we're in the back half now. So caught up, ready to go. Got myself lost in a good book this weekend. Daisy
Ooh.
Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Great
Oh,
book. So
okay.
because I was moderating a panel discussion and she was in the next panel over and her line was around the street, down the street and around the corner last week at the Las Vegas Book Festival. So I got into her book. So that was my weekend.
Wow. What kind of book is it? What's it about?
It's like a book about a band and it's written in the perspective of someone is interviewing the band as they go through their career. It's very original, very unique how she did it. And there are a couple little revelations towards the end. I just love her writing style. She does really well.
That's exciting.
She's like a dream interview guest. I would love to interview her.
Let's get her. Let's put
Well,
her on the vision board.
I've been trying for 6 or 7 years, so we'll see.
Oh, well, keep trying. We're gonna get her. We're gonna get
Okay.
her. Okay.
So that's a good segue because we have a great guest that's coming up with us this week. And, a lot of our guests in the past and a lot of people who watch us are either meeting and event planners or they're speakers. And so we're always trying to figure out what's going on in the speaking industry and how can we get more opportunities. So I had the chance to meet Danielle through Hillary Billings. And Hillary introduced us at WEC towards the end. We were able to catch up. And then Danielle actually saw the end of my talk that you were at IMAX. And so now we're here. We're going to bring her to the stage. We get to talk to her. Got some fun questions. So we want to welcome to the stage. We're going to welcome to the stage. Let me get my little things correctly here. Danielle Sweeney's with us. There she is there. A round of applause. We got that going on here.
Hi. I'm working on my wave.
There you go.
Jazz hands. Hi,
Yeah,
Danielle.
yeah.
It's nice to see you.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
So we're excited to have you. We got lots of questions for you. But first, right now you're coming to us from Toronto, correct?
From Toronto, yes.
Okay. So you're in Toronto, but you've lived in Australia, the Netherlands. Where else have you lived?
I have lived for brief stints. I have also lived in Ireland, Italy, Montreal, and I think that's about it. But I did have a period there where I was like in a different place every few years. It was I didn't know which end was up for a little while.
Okay.
But I'm happy to be back in my hometown of Toronto, even though winter's coming.
Toronto. Yeah. Now, if you were going to pick any city in the world that best shows your personality, what city comes to mind?
That is such a good question. Okay, I'm going to take one from the ones that I've lived in. And I have to say that I think I became a little bit Dutch when I was living in Amsterdam.
Oh.
And the reason for that is there's this beautiful candor to the Dutch people where there's no malice. They're the most helpful, kind people, but they have very little filter. And as I learned, I think I was born that way a little bit, where my filter is not always on. So when someone asks me for an honest opinion, I often give it. And again, I don't mean any malice, but sometimes I need to go, whoops, Sweeney, keep it, tidy it back up. I also love riding my bike everywhere.
Okay, yeah. Since you mentioned living in Europe, I'm curious if you've been successful bringing the term fig jam to North America.
I'm working on it. I am working on it. My favorite expression ever. Can I explain
to the people what fig jam is? Explain to the people.
Okay. I do, and I do have to apologize, pardon my French, as they say, but it's an Australian expression, which is kind of used when people get a little too big for their boots. They say, oh, they're a little fig jam, a little too, look at me. But what it stands for is, pardon me, fuck, I'm good, just ask me. And the beauty of it to me, I'm like, I think we all need a little more fig jam in our lives. I think we're really good at being really nice to other people and celebrating other people. And we're not always as good at doing that for ourselves. So I always think that we have one of those moments, we have a fig jam moment and we're like, oh yeah, fig jam. Like I did that thing, whether it's something small or something big. So welcome to fig jam, and, fig jam on some, cheese and crackers is also delicious.
Okay. We like it. We like it. Now, before I throw it over to Mandi, if you're going to describe who Danielle Sweeney is in 30 seconds or less, who are you?
Oh, geez, that is a really tough one. I am a creative person who loves parameters. I like things that are a little bit left of center. I have a deeply inappropriate sense of humor, and I am always moving.
Well gone. Mandi, over to you.
Okay, you just said so many things in 1 minute that I'm like clocking as awesome. First of all, I love to ride bikes everywhere. I also have a filter issue. And this is like twin sisters here. And fig jam, I love this because you are so right. Like people are like, we can't talk about ourselves. That's bragging, or it's not humble. It's like, what if you aren't going to fill the space with awesome stuff about yourself? Nobody else will, or somebody else will fill it about themselves, and then you just get washed under the rug. So I love this fig jam. I might do a little post about it. I love it.
Do you know what? I actually have to tell you, I've got this little anecdote just for a quick sec.
Yeah.
But I ran a stupidly long race this summer, trail race that my friend roped me into. And while I was training for this stupidly long race, I haven't run it in a long time, I started getting really down on myself. And I was like, I would never talk to my running partner, Paul, like this. But in my head, which is where the space is, I was like, oh, for God's sake, you can't do this, all this stuff. And so I decided to play around with like toxic positivity and go into like full fig jam when I started to feel tired. And in my head, I'm like, look at you. And I always refer to myself in the third person as Sweeney. I don't know why, by last name. I'm like, look at you go, Sweeney. Way to go, Sweeney. Like, imagine you're out here. And I started tracking my kilometers, and my kilometers got between 10 and 30 seconds faster only when I was doing that. So like, it didn't do anything else. Still felt the same tiredness, but it changed how I showed up. And I was like, well, geez, Louise, like it's time to start doing that all the time.
All the time. And it's the
Yeah,
energy. It's that
totally.
whole thoughts become words and words become actions. And like the universe is listening. Like it
Mhm.
is listening to what you're thinking. It is listening to that energy
100%.
you put out. And I love that.
Yeah.
Anyways, anyways, speaking of the universe and energy, I wanna talk about Keynote Direct in a second.
Mhm.
But before we get there, I've got to understand, like, walk us through this transition from gems to
Yeah.
stages. Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do we start with like this big history and jewels and joy and gems, and now stages? Like, get us to
Oh my
present
gosh.
day.
As my friends joke, they're like, if there is a job out there that Danielle hasn't done, we have yet to find it. Um, so I would say probably much like you both, like multi-passionate, like I have all of these different things that I've done in my life. So I went to school and got a degree in medieval Italian literature in Italian. So,
Wow.
when you come out with a degree like that, like, what are you going to do? But it was actually really interesting because I started work as a jeweler, and I'm a goldsmith by background, or metalsmith, I should say. And worked in Australia, worked in Canada for a long time, worked in Australia. And while I was working in Australia, I kind of refound my love of calligraphy. And so started doing calligraphy. And like in Australia, I had this tiny little studio, and I would make platinum wedding rings on one side with my like welding goggles and the whole 9 yards. And then as my ring was cooling, I would turn around and I'd be writing custom invitations for Chanel's, invite only shows in beautiful classic calligraphy with the dip pen and the whole 9 yards. So I had this kind of whole world, and then traveled around the world living and raising my daughter. And I ended up in Amsterdam, and I was getting divorced at the time. And my cousin, who has been in the speaking industry since the early 2000s, since 2003, actually, and I were having a conversation. I always found his business so interesting. He was talking to these fascinating people, all of these ideas, like corporations coming to him and going like, hey, we need someone to talk to us about this because this is a problem. And I was always kind of sitting there with my head in my hands, fascinated by it. And I came home, and there was all this transition happening in my life. And he reached out to me and he said, hey, do you know anyone who could do our marketing? We're really blowing up. Like business is going crazy, and we really need someone to take over marketing as a full-time role. And I was like, maybe I could do that. So I put my hand up, and I started in my marketing director role at the Sweeney agency in November of 2019. So you can imagine, much like Christy Steele, right? Like starting events right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
really interesting time.
Yeah.
But since then, like it's actually a great time to do what I was doing, because the same things weren't working anymore. Stages were gone. We had to recreate a stage. What does the virtual stage look like? How do you keep people engaged? Where do we find our connection points, and how do we navigate those things? So from a marketing perspective, it was a super, super interesting time to get in there. And what I thought would be an interesting role has really, I feel in my heart and soul, has become a lifelong calling. Like I love this industry and I love being part of it. And I still get to be part of all these great ideas and see all these things and be kind of adjacent to them rather than just watching them from the audience, so to speak.
I love it. I love you just pursuing all these different passions. I think that's super fun and learning along the
Mhm.
way. I think it's great. Um, for Keynote Direct though,
Mhm.
how do you compare to a speakers bureau? So for those that are
Mhm.
listening or watching, if you're not in the conference business, most speakers come through a speakers bureau. Most speakers at conferences, they come through a speakers bureau, or they've got a big network like Amani and I do, and people like book direct. But most speakers are also like members of multiple speakers bureaus, or they're represented by multiple people, and then the speakers bureau gets a cut of whatever you
Mhm.
pay, that kind of thing. So how is Keynote Direct different than the average speakers bureau that's out there right now?
So it's a little bit different in a few different ways, and I should probably, the reason I've started Keynote Direct is what I found by working in a traditional non-exclusive bureau is that we weren't servicing a lot of clients in the under 10,000 space. So a lot of our clients would have great big stages, and they would have a budget of $50,000 for a speaker, and then they would have a number of other events throughout the year where their budget was lower, let's say between $5,000 and $10,000. And for the work that we were doing, we weren't booking those under $10,000 spaces. And I think a lot of bureaus are in the similar place where it's hard to find speakers in the under $10,000 space. It's hard to vet speakers because they aren't associated with the bureau, because often the cost of working with them doesn't really end up working out for the bureau, right? They're ending up, they make 25% on a booking. Better to do the same amount of work for a $50,000 booking than for a $5,000 booking. So to me, I was seeing all of these speakers kind of trying to figure out how to crack that $10,000 ceiling without having the experience to really be in that place. So I was looking at the space and going, okay, where do our clients go? And then where do these speakers go to start to build their names so that they can get better and better and start to have bigger stages? So from that, Keynote Direct has kind of come out. I mean, I like to say it's like an Airbnb for keynote speakers. So keynote speakers join with a membership fee, and they can post, they're all vetted, so you can't just kind of come on board, vetted by industry professionals. And like myself, and I have a few others who I work with, kind of they're on the quiet, but they've been in the biz for years and years. And we vet these speakers, make sure they are professional speakers, and then they come on the platform, and then we do the marketing for them. So we are the ones who put down the money for the SEO. We use our connections, we use all of our affiliations, and then clients can come on there and look for a leadership speaker in the $5,000 to $8,000 space who is going to be in this location and is available. And they can do all of that online without having to go back and forth. So that's the traditional bureau space where you'd contact a representative, you'd contact the bureau. They'd say, yes, Amani's available. And then you go back and you go, what is this fee? And they say, this is his fee. And you kind of have this whole back and forth. This is really just one-stop shopping. So it makes it really, really simple for the meeting and event planners. And it hopefully also makes it really transparent for the speakers as well, so they can see what's coming in, and they can also perfect their pitch. Like you guys are, salespeople, you get this, like understanding who's coming to you and what they understand about the work that you're doing is really key, because sometimes we think our message is crystal clear and it's actually clear as mud, and people don't really understand what we're doing. So we have to refine those messages. So the goal is to really, I'll use a great Canadian expression. I know you guys have minor leagues, but here we call it the farm team. So we're kind of the farm team for the big leagues of speaking. So people can get the reps in, they can really refine their message, and then they can hit the ground running at, $10,000 and up, and go start working with bureaus and start working with, managers or exclusive bureaus, things like that.
Awesome. Great explanation.
Yeah. What is it like the demand going to be for this kind of range between like 10,000 and less? And how do you manage the demand? And what's your anticipation in terms of how frequently you're going to be like placing speakers and booking speakers? What's your kind of forecast?
Oh my goodness, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you exactly. Like with all this, it's really funny because I've always been an entrepreneur and I've always had my own businesses, but I've never done it on this scale before. So I started to kind of look into all the scientific methods of forecasting and identifying and the what and how and whatever. And really, the most successful entrepreneurs said to me, they're like, you kind of just take a guess. So I'm guessing that we're going to be looking at a pretty sizable part of the population, because the one thing I did, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but going to MPI's WEC in June, which is just, anyone out there who's not been to WEC, it's absolutely fantastic for meeting and event planners. Like the education there, I thought was really incredible. So talking to event and meeting planners there, every single person I spoke to said, yeah, it's no problem to get a high value speaker, but it's really hard to find someone who's good in those lower numbers. And that was 100%. And you guys have spoken to me for 20 minutes, I can talk the hind legs off a donkey. So I was out there talking to people, and that was 100% the answer for most people. And we also see our industry is blowing up. Like the meeting and events industry is meant to be worth about $1 trillion, I think, at the last count globally by 2030. Like that's extraordinary. And yes, I know the keynote speakers are only a small portion of that pie, but when we look at what is happening in the events industry is that people are looking for more and more experiential, holistic experience, to double down on that word, but they're not just looking for someone like the one and done sort of keynote. So if we're coming in and speakers are coming in and they're coming in with something a little bit different than just the getting up on stage, yap, 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 and off they go, that's a totally different thing that they can then market. And so if we're starting to do that at these lower fee ranges, as people are starting out, maybe they have 100 events under their belt instead of 1,000, And they're starting to already create that. That becomes part of their DNA. And then that becomes part of the DNA of meetings and events. And that gets pretty exciting. So to answer your question, precisely, I don't have an answer for you. I'm hoping we're going to have about 200 speakers online within the next 6 months. We're already, well over 50, which is super exciting. So I'm onboarding some of those speakers now. And we're growing. There's a ton of interest. And again, all the meeting and event planners, whether they're meeting and event planners solely, or they are like many meeting and event planners, they do 10 other jobs.
Yeah.
And this is just one part of it. They're starting to realize that they don't need to be doing all this legwork themselves. Like vetting a speaker takes forever. So to spend 30 hours vetting a speaker, it just doesn't make sense. So whether it's Keynote Direct that you use, or it's one of the bureaus or companies out there, like please use them. It costs nothing, and it will save you a huge amount of time and effort.
Nice. When you're looking at like the future of speaking and the future of keynotes and workshops, you kind of mentioned a little bit more experiential, less of the one-stop shop. What else can you tell us about the future if you're making a prediction or you're kind of thinking, where's the industry going?
Oh, that's a great question. And we've actually been talking about this a lot in the masterminds and the accountability groups that I am in, which encompass so many different people in our industry. What I found, and again, I started in November 2019, so there was a massive shift very, very quickly within those 5 months until the pandemic really hit, is that the days of the guru on the stage are gone. Those days of someone getting up there and just talking at people and leaving, as I was saying, people now want to understand, and I think this probably had a large thing, largely due to like social media and stuff during the pandemic, where we were seeing into people's bedrooms. We were kind of in their lives. And now that's a really big part of it. Like there have been some speakers where you don't actually get to speak to the speaker before they get on your stage. And to me, I'm like, what? Like, this is a person. I'm a person. You're a person. Let's all just connect and make sure it's a good fit. And that's happening less and less frequently. So in terms of things changing, I think there's going to be longer relationships with the speakers. And again, I'm just using the word speaker as kind of a generic, but whether they're doing events where there is, breakouts, there's follow-ups. We have a lot of speakers doing ongoing education and research over time. So it's not a one and done. The biggest mistake a speaker can make these days is to have nothing to follow up with after they get up stage. Like, how do you reconnect with people? How do you check in a few months later and go, hey, was my message sticky? Is there anything else I can offer you? And not offer you from a perspective of, another $12,000 or whatever, but hey, what else do you need? Is there a message I can send to your people? That sort of thing is going to start to develop a deeper trust between the experts, who are you guys, who are the speakers who are on the stages, and the clients themselves. And then you can start to see some change. Then there's some commitment to ongoing change and some accountability. And I think that's something that I really hope to see in the next 5 years is becoming the norm, rather than those, few companies that are really just on the edge and on the frontier of that sort of real development, rather than lip service to change and growth.
Interesting. Mandi?
I like this continuing the conversation trend, because I just know for myself, that's a question that buyers ask me all the time. They're like, okay, well, once you're done, how can our people interact with you? How can they continue to follow you? How can they continue to benefit? So I like that you're approaching it from that lens of like, oh no, we want you to continue the conversation with the speaker and grow together. I think that's awesome. When you're vetting, because you said not everybody can sign up, when you're vetting speakers, what are you looking for?
So a really big part of what I'm looking for is, well, obviously professionalism, but also a point of view. And what happens from that perspective of that point of view is that we're looking for someone who isn't just parroting the same lines. So for instance, one of the speakers I work with, well, I also have a speaker management company for speakers who are kind of in 15,000 and over range. And one of the speakers that I work with is, all of them are pioneers, but one in particular was looking at demographics. He was in sales for years and years. And he was looking at demographics and psychographics and all the different ways that people build their organizations and build the sales for their organizations. And he started thinking, wait a sec, this doesn't seem to make sense. Why would a 35-year-old guy who is from this place and has this income be the exact same as this 35-year-old guy who does these things? Like, they have totally different values. And so we started looking at values. What are the things that people value? And then how do we come together on values rather than demographics.
Mm.
So this is pretty groundbreaking. Like everyone has spent millions on their demographic profiles and their psychographic profiles of their clients, but no one's actually looking at what these people are valuing. So this person's come in, and for the first few years, it was an uphill battle. He had to help people understand what he was doing because no one had heard of value graphics.
Yeah,
Like,
and
what are you
nobody
talking about?
understand. Yeah, or
Nobody
they don't put value on
understands.
value.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure,
And
it's
then
so
they actually
true.
see, and then they see the results and they're like, this is fascinating. So that perspective, that point of view is so, so important. And that's what's going to differentiate you. And then the other side of that is the point of view in terms of you as a person. Like we were joking about having no filter, right? As soon as I start to lean into that and go, I guess this is just me, wonderful things start to happen. So don't feel like you need to be wearing the pearls just because you speak about leadership. If you are funny and witty and on top of things, guess what? There's going to be an audience out there for you. Our industry is so, so big, and there are audiences for all of the people, but you have to be aligned with your messaging and the value that you're providing as well. Like nobody's going to pay for fluff anymore. There's no more kind of rah inspirational speaker and no content. Like that's just not happening. So that's a really key aspect that we're looking for.
I love that. And then as we look at your business, right, it's this like three-legged chair thing, right? It's like you need the speakers to fill the funnel so you have inventory, right? But you need the clients to actually use the tool and book the speakers. So when you're running your business, how are you managing both of those? Like how much time are you spending on both, or what's the strategy looking like to fill both those buckets?
Oh gosh, it's like anything, and I think both of you can appreciate this. It's this never-ending list of things that you need to do. I've got my book here with all of my different lists in it, and I think the key part of any entrepreneur's journey is that we start out with this really, and I know Amani, you speak about this a lot, like creativity, right? Like we start with this real creativity and desire and drive to do things a little bit differently or to shake everything up. And then when it comes down to it, it's actually quite procedural. So with the speaker part, it's getting to know the speakers and kind of taking the time to understand what they're about so that when people ask, and I have tons of bureaus already coming to me being like, hey, my client's got a 10K spot, can you help me out? So that's really exciting. We're getting buy-in from our industry. So that's kind of that one point. And I find the speaker part is right now it's procedural, it's vetting. I have to be very, very analytical. And then from the client perspective, so that we're calling them the speaker seekers or the seekers.
Ooh, like
isn't that cute?
Yeah,
my COO came up with
seeker.
that, and I was like, oh, the speaker seeker, I like it.
I love it. I love it.
So when we're looking from that perspective, it is a very creative role. Like, what is it that's going to help people go, oh, that's what I need right now? I'm not going to do this myself. I can trust these people. And then how do you help get people to trust you? And that, comes across, and that has to come across in all of your copy and all of your messaging and your graphics and your colors and your branding, like so many different aspects there. So it really is like anything. It's a massive juggle. And then it's managing my full-time speakers as well. So it's, it's doing all the things all the time. And I think I'm realizing that's kind of how I was built to do all the things. My partner was joking with me, and she's like, you just like to burn everything down a few years and just like throw everything in there again and go, oh, what happens? But actually there's one other thing exactly. That's it. The cauldron.
Yeah.
There was one other aspect, and this comes from my COO, and she's absolutely wonderful. But she's has run a very successful business of her own, and she calls it the marshmallow approach. This whole idea of hustle, and especially in startup world and as entrepreneurs, that we have to be hustling all the time. Hustle. And I don't work well when I hustle. It exhausts me. I end up running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I don't focus on anything well or follow anything through. And she has this marshmallow theory, and I really like it. And she's like, let things come, be soft, approach them. If you're at a point where you're not producing something, go out for a walk. Take some time, take space. And when we look at some of the most, successful people in the world, or some of the people that we look up to in terms of productivity and success and whatnot, a key part of what they do is taking time to just realign, absorb, not hustling. Like hustle culture is, maybe I'd be, as we were joking before, like sitting on a stack of money at the moment, but I have zero interest in wasting my life in order to hustle. So that's something that I'm really trying to focus on, is trying to find some balance and not overdoing it.
Yeah, space,
Interesting.
silence, and stillness. There's magic in all of that for
Right?
sure. And entrepreneurs, and all your speakers are entrepreneurs. Like
Totally.
entrepreneurs need to be reminded of this because I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of hustle and grind and grit. But I found in the last 5 years or so, like I literally block out time in the calendar for rest. I build in
Yes,
time for retreats. Like you can't do all the stuff that you want to do if you're running on empty, right? You've got to fill that
that's
tank
it.
back up. So I'm glad to hear that you recognize that and that you preach that through your business. That's
Mhm.
really awesome.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point there because I think it's probably that traditional hustle culture is dead, but the grit is there and the resilience is there and the focus is there, but it can't be there 24/7. And I
That's
think
right.
that's the shift that we've kind of noticed, thankfully, in the last few years and probably age too. Like, you know what? I don't need to be doing this to the point of exhaustion, where in my 20s, I don't think I would have hesitated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, you've been a part of IASB.
IAB.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a mouthful.
I was about to say something else. How has that participation, and explain to people who might not know what it
Yes.
is, and also how has that benefited you personally and professionally?
Oh my gosh, I could go on about this for a decade. So IASB, which is we all kind of slur it together. IASB is the International Association for Speakers Bureaus, and the name is a little bit misleading because it is focused on the speakers bureau space, but actually it's lots of people who are professional, invested, and part of the professional speaking industry. So not speakers, it's for everyone except speakers. You guys have NSA, which we all kind of come and participate in and get to pretend that we're there and speakers. But we are a group of, I think we're a pretty small group actually. It's a few hundred members, but it's professional speaking industry people. So managers, bureaus, vendors, you name it. I joined as part of the Sweeney agency when I first started in the speaking world and found that what is a very competitive industry. I mean, you're in the speaking world. It's competitive. We're looking for similar spots. We have similar speakers, similar topics. We represent a lot of the same speakers in the bureau world. Like there'll be speakers who are on Keynote Direct, and they might be on 10 other bureaus. So we're all basically have the same product. But my goodness, the level of collaboration, of cooperation, of community that has been fostered in that IASB world is really extraordinary. So we have a marketing group that meets every month, and they're the directors and heads of agencies, of bureaus, of management companies. And we all get together and talk about what's working, what's not working. Hey, I'm doing this with my newsletter. It's been really great. We've had open rates go up by 10%. Like I'm doing this. Hey, have you worked with so-and-so? And it's really fascinating because this level of kind of collaboration over competition has really been extraordinary, both for my own personal growth, like that. I am immensely grateful for I can call any one of 10 people up and say, hey, I'm having this problem, or this client said this, or there's a contract issue. Can you help? Have you seen this before? And invariably someone will say, oh yeah, no problem. Here's what I've done. Here's how I can do this. And that is, for a competitive industry, it's really extraordinary. And I feel really, really fortunate. So from both a professional standpoint, but then a personal standpoint, I mean, you guys are in this business. People in this business are awesome. It is the most charismatic, interesting, fun group of people. Like our conference, I don't know, it blows the roof off. It's a bit like NSA. It's just like you get into that lunch area and it is like deafening, the volume and people speaking. So it's a really, really fun thing to be part of. And I just feel so fortunate to be in that world and to have those colleagues. I mean, we do a strange thing. And it's really great to talk to people who also do that strange thing
Yeah.
and collaborate with them and ask them questions and connect on what's happening in our world.
Interesting. Now, based on your experience and expertise, what are the best ways for up and coming speakers to grow their speaking business?
Oh, that is a great question. And there are so many different things that speakers can do. I think one of the key things that I think people get wrong a lot is that they create this massive social presence. I think it's really important. And you look at how a great social presence is cultivated, it's adding value. That is a really, really key part of it. So I think a lot of speakers who are just starting out will just look at getting their name out there, their name out there, their name out there, but they're not necessarily adding value. In this space, it's not celebrity that people are looking for. They're looking for value. Our clients are looking for what their people are going to find out. So that's a really key thing to focus on. So when you are on your socials and there is that very low barrier to entry, just always be thinking about who that end client is, because they're looking at the people who book you are the ones who are looking at how great you're going to be on stage and what their boss might think, what their clients might think who are in the audience. So if you're talking about, team culture and there's kind of silly things on your Instagram that don't align with that messaging, you do want to think about that sort of alignment and the value you're providing. And that is, you become the brand. And that is very different from you as a person. So I think just being aware of that, that's one key thing. And then the other part would be to be very, very clear on the transformation that you create in your audience or for your audience. And that's what people are looking for. They're all looking for some sort of transformation, whether it's, 10 things that they're going to do, whether it's one thing that someone's going to do. One person in an audience of 1,000 is going to walk out of there and be like, that's the thing. That's what you want to be looking for. I mean, I think it's David Ogilvy, that idea of talking to like one person in one audience. That's what you're looking for. And if you can start to communicate that in a very effective way, people are going to start to buy into what you're doing, because people can resonate with it on a very human level. And that's where we've seen a big shift. We've seen, life, it's no longer personal or professional. It's personal and professional. So when we're looking for that transformation, it can be on so many different levels. And you can speak as a human, right? Human to human versus guru on the stage to audience.
Interesting. Okay. Now we've come to the point in the show where it's time for you. We're going to flip the script. So you can ask myself and Mandi any question you like. So who are you going to ask first? And what is said question? So who's first?
Okay, well, Amani, first I want to ask you about that orange suit, which I loved. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Because and it seems, I still love the suit.
Thank you.
And I hope you have more of them.
Yeah.
And it's a bold move. So I wonder how much of your personal branding and personality, because you are a multi-passionate entrepreneur, how much of that do you bring into what you do? And are there various levels of it in terms of the different things that you do?
Okay, so the orange suit, thank you. Orange is my favorite color, and I try to wear something that will be memorable. Plus, the cover of my book is also quite orange too, one of my books.
Yeah.
So that's good. So it kind of translates through. I try to bring through a lot of my personality and what I speak. Like, I bring the music to the stage. So I love music, I love my slow jams. And I try to bring music to the stage to help me share my message. Either it's unlocking creativity, doing that sort of thing, or being innovative. So I bring a lot of my own personality through the stories that I tell and the music I play on stage to what I do. I teach music business. I learn from my students. So it's like music's a big part of me, and that's a big part of what I teach and what I share on stage too.
And so with that in mind, because you talk about creativity and so much of who you're speaking to, what they end up doing is it's hard to find the creativity in our day-to-day. Like, what if you were going to give me a tip being in the stage where I've gone from super creative, top of the funnel, to almost procedural? How do you help people unlock that shift?
I would say, let's go back to when you were a kid and look at your bedroom. What did you have in your bedroom when you were a child, and see if you can maybe bring some of that into your office or to your current, home or whatever. Because many times we were probably our most creative selves when we were a kid, youth. We were also not afraid of taking risks. So whether it's a poster, whether it's a song, whether it's a saying, a book, what can you bring with you that was with you during the time when you were most creative? And then how can we add to that and continue to duplicate that moving forward?
I like that. I'm going to think about that. I don't know what it is. What is it for you?
Ooh, for me, I have a couple pictures. I have a picture of a basketball player. I grew up loving sports. I still love sports. I have a couple magazine covers of sports, some of my sports heroes that I still keep around. Those are probably the top two things. And then maybe deep in the closet, you'll find an old hoodie or something of when I was a kid or something. So those
There's always that back corner.
Yes, deep into the closet. We don't like to look there frequently. So yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so now flipping that to you, Mandi, especially with your sales background and your coaching background, how are you bringing some of that creativity? Because a lot of people are like, sales not creative. There isn't a whole lot to it. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think that's bonkers because the best salespeople are the most creative. Like, you have to be creative to
Mhm.
find new ways to be memorable in the marketplace, to stay on your customer's radar, to close. I mean, just closing tactics in general need to be creative. The
Mhm.
only way you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur or as a salesperson is if you tap into your creativity. And I think it starts with actually making time for
Mhm.
creativity. I think you had talked about this earlier in the interview when you had said, people need to make time for themselves, make space for themselves. You, I would encourage people to build on that, make space for creativity. So whether that is
Mhm.
like once a week on a Friday at 3 o'clock, where you're reading for an hour, or you're looking at different ways people are doing business. Like, you
Mhm.
have to make space for creativity because any old person can go out of the office, right? And just put the boring, like, out of the office when, where, hi.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. But the best salespeople write an out of office poem, or the best salespeople write an out of office haiku, or the best salespeople have their signature line and they love bacon and their name is Lisa and it's a picture of the name Lisa and bacon. Like, these are the things when your
I love
customers get
that.
an email from you, they're going to remember you. They're going to be like, whoa, great email, right? They're going to remember you. And it's not just your customers, it's your
Mhm.
vendors and your suppliers. They are going to want to work with you. If there's a choice between giving you a discount and giving that boring old frumpy person a discount, you're going to get a discount if you ask, because they like your signature line. Like, so I think there's only space for creativity in sales. And I think the best salespeople are the ones that are creative. Like, they're coming up with interesting ways to present a proposal. I think of my friend Brian Aroni, who also works for HPN. Like, he always wears a bow tie when he's on the trade show floor. He's got a signature pose that he does. Like, these are visuals that when you take a picture
Mhm.
with him at a trade show, people are like, I want to work with that guy. Like, you can think about how you visually present yourself, how you're communicating,
Mhm.
how the words that you're using. There's so many ways to be creative. And I think the best salespeople are creative people.
I love that. I think
Yeah.
that you're right. Just that little tweak of personality brings everything in. It almost brings everything into sharp focus. And people can they either resonate with it or they go, oh, okay. But the people who resonate with it then become fans, don't they? That seems to be the big shift.
Even the people that don't like it become fans, because here's what I have found. I have found that I can't tell you the number of coaching sessions or speeches where I have
Um,
suggested an out of office poem. And I'm like, if you are
I'm
not
totally doing that, by the way. I'm
you
stealing that
have
one for
to.
sure. I'm
I'm like,
doing
if,
it.
if you're not a writer, you just go into ChatGPT and ask them to create an out of office poem in the voice of Chelsea Handler, Jerry Seinfeld, or George Washington. Like, they're- these these are memorable things, right? But I can't tell
Yeah.
you the number of people I've said this to who come up to me after and they're like, "Yeah, that's just not my personality. I can't do it." I'm like, "Well, just try it. Just see what happens."
Yeah. Dip
The
your toe
the
in.
the people that try it actually love
Mhm.
it. But the people on the receiving end who don't like it, they will tell you, I love this, but I could never do this myself,
Mm.
which is fine.
Ah, okay.
You're
Yeah.
still going to be memorable to that person. Even if it doesn't resonate with that person, your
Yes.
goal is to have to be memorable.
It's a
That's it.
connection. Yeah.
They don't have to like you. They don't have to resonate with it, but they just have to remember you.
I love
Yeah.
that. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm totally stealing that. I'm going to send you
Steal
my
it.
poem. I almost want to go away now just so I can write a poem.
Oh, do
I'll take
it.
tomorrow off.
Send me your
There we
poem.
go.
Send it to
I'm
me. I want
going
to see
to.
it. I
It's
want to
going to
see
be
it.
good.
Yeah.
No, but okay, this is something that I'm very interested in this too. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you both have different like resolutions. I know, Mandy, you have your birthday resolution, so happy
Mhm.
belated. But now,
Thank
kind of 3 months, 2.5 months in, where are you at with those resolutions? Like, do you do a check-in? I'm a January birthday, so mine kind of coincide with
Mm.
the start of the year. And I know, Amani, I think you're saying March or April. You and your gang get together.
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
So how do you guys find, once you're kind of in it a little bit, how do you find your levels of resilience and flow when it comes to keeping those up?
I mean, I
Hmm.
check mine once. I have a little Google Doc and I check mine once a month. And I actually have a health coach that keeps me accountable.
Oh, great.
And so we meet once a month or once every 6 weeks. And she's got my list. Like I'm looking up at my list right now. She's got my list and she's texting me throughout, the time frame, checking in. That's part of our agreement. And
Awesome.
I also I tell people what the goals are because I want people to check in on me.
Mm.
I want
Mhm.
people to hold me accountable too. And I tell people to tell me your goals and I'll check in. And it's not a shame thing. It's just a
Mhm.
reminder kind of thing. But yeah, I
And a cheering
actually
section, right? I
and a
guess when
cheering
you hit those goals. Yeah.
and a support. Yeah, I mean, I just think
Mhm.
you got to make it visual. You've got to tell people about it. You've got to hire a coach if you need some help. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I just think it's a full court press on everything.
That's
Mhm. I love
interesting.
that.
I think it's funny you mentioned me because we just went on a trip to Colombia together, my group. So we actually reviewed
Amazing.
them at lunchtime there one time, and we're doing very
Oh,
well.
great.
This is probably the best we've done in a while, many years. So we review it. I have some listed up here, like the ins and outs for the year and things like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of just how Mandy said, just reminders. Like Mandy knows my
Mhm.
goals. She knows most of my goals. And so she'll ask me periodically. We have episodes, we talk about it. So it's good to have a cheering section and to kind of check in and see how we're doing. And I think this year we're going to be plenty impressed once we get to the review in January.
I agree. And
I
also
love that.
one more thing on that, and I'm curious, Danielle, I might
Mhm.
give an answer that flip a question back on you is
Sure.
I think it's something I learned about this health journey that I'm on is like these micro goals are way more important than the max
Mhm.
goals. Because I think sometimes we tend to make like, I want to write a book. Okay, awesome. There's about 20 micro goals you should take in
Yes.
the next 2 years to actually write the book, right? And
Totally.
I think, and we don't celebrate those micro goals. So, like a micro goal for writing a book can be like, I'm going to wake up once a week and I'm going to write for 30 minutes. Okay. So, after 2 months of doing that, celebrate and put a prize down for yourself. Like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna buy myself an ice cream cone for that. Like go through the micro goals and the
Yeah.
prize, and then the macro goals and the prize. Like I think the little things get you to the big things. So I kind of want to flip this on you because I know you're interacting with your speakers all the time. Like, how
Mhm.
are you talking about goal setting with them, and how are you helping them realize their goals? What do those goal conversations look like?
So much similar, so similar to what you guys are talking about, where we often will have, let's say for a particular speaker, we'll have a goal for a certain amount of events per year. And these are the speakers that I manage. So I'm very much in their business and we're part of it. And so we look at where, we check in with how are we tracking? Where are we getting holds from? We do all of that analysis. And then it comes down to kind of having a little bit of time to play. So for those micro goals, let's work on some repositioning or some rebranding. What does that feel like? What if we do this? And really opening the door to that creativity and that opportunity to kind of tweak things and then testing. That's the other thing. And all of this stuff, when I used to hear people talk about this stuff, I'm like, oh, how boring. Why can't you just do it? But this idea that you can put something into play for a few months and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Not be tied to the outcome, but go, okay, well, if we want to hit 60 events next year, what does that look like? Like, how do we get there? And is our messaging in this point, is that right on? And if not, let's play around with it. Let's see what the feedback comes back from. And again, with this industry that we're part of, we're testing some new taglines for one of my speakers. And it's actually really interesting because some people are like, yep, love it. Others are like, no, I can't sell that. Like, I can't be part of that. So
Mm.
this kind of back and forth. So I would say that micro goals, I think it was Ken Rusk when he was talking about the shovelfuls.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love
Good
that
memory.
episode because
You did your
it was,
research. You're citing specific episodes
I
here.
told you, I was like the secret. I was like, oh my God, these
Oh
are
my
these
God, this is
guys.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
listened to this so long ago. Like, I think it was back, what, it was in April or something?
It's
March,
Yeah.
early.
April, that
Yeah, it's
episode?
early.
Spring.
Yeah.
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 And I remember thinking about it because I had this like tangible where it's actually like cleaning out my garage while I listened. And I was like, oh, like the shovelful analogy is so clever because the whole doesn't happen all at once. It's just that little bit at a time. And so if we can do that with anyone that we work with, and we can just do a little bit at a time, it doesn't seem quite so terrifying. But again, to Mandy, to your point, it allows us to celebrate those smaller goals. And then we get to October of a year and we're like, oh, wow, like we're at 48 events. Like, how awesome is that? We're almost at our goal. And like, what else can we do? But none of it is perfect. None of it is finite. None of it is irreversible. And I think that's part of it too. We can really iterate and we can continue to evolve. And I think being able to be open to that evolution and growth is such a key part of goals. And that's probably something I've learned, in the last 5 to 10 years, is that goals don't have to stay the same all the time. The evolution of who we are and where we're at when we make them then allows us to really have the creativity to play in that space and see what comes next. The yellow brick road example, right? Like you put it out there and you're like, let's see. And then things
Yeah.
start to appear. And I think that's really beautiful.
I like the
Interesting.
experiment. I think you do have to experiment and just know that like you're just trying it out. Like it might not work, but it also might be amazing. Like you just gotta
Yeah.
experiment,
Exactly.
try it out. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So I have two kind of final questions for you. The first one would be like, let's ask a question for the more experienced speakers. What can more experienced speakers do to stay relevant?
Check out what's going on in the world. Keep looking at what's happening out there and keep checking in with yourself to make sure that what you're speaking about is still landing. And it's really clear from the stage, from your perspective, when you're out there speaking and you're looking at the audience and they're doing one of these, or worse yet, they're down on their phones. Time to like tweak what you're doing. One of my fellow speaker managers, who is just an absolute mentor to me, Meta Nelson, she has this brilliant analogy of the speaker athlete versus the speaker politician. And I trot it out all the time, but I think it's so important. The speaker politician gets out there, they get up on their soapbox and they say the same thing over and over again, right? And they don't want to hear anything else. They get on the stage, they get off the stage, and they go. The speaker athlete's first question to whoever they're working with is, what could I have done better? Is there something that I missed? What else can I do? How can they want to hear? They almost want to hear the bad stuff first, because they're like, there's stuff for me to learn here, and how can I keep evolving? So be a speaker athlete, continue to improve, and know that improvement is like, nothing is ever perfect. So what is the next iteration of what you're doing, and how do you start to get those? When you're on stage and you nail it, anyone does, and you get that swell and you feel the energy in the room, and there's this reciprocity of that going back and forth, and it's a really beautiful thing. You're in that flow state. And if you're not finding that flow state as frequently, then maybe you're bored with your topic. Maybe it's time to tweak what you're talking about. But for the love of all things, do not change your topic to match what's happening in the world. But if you talk about change, and AI is the biggest topic, don't start talking about AI, but what is the part of change that's actually, what are people feeling in this moment? How are you connecting to them? People are scared of AI. People are scared of change. So the change part is the navigation part, not the AI part.
Good.
For example.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Not to poo-poo AI speakers, but
understood. We get where you're going. We get where you're going.
Okay, good.
So if we go back and we're sitting down with Danielle right as she's finishing college and giving her advice based on everything you've learned so far in life, what advice would you give your younger self?
Trust yourself.
Okay,
That would be,
Tell us more.
that would be my biggest thing. And I was, it's so funny. I've always been a journal keeper, and I go back into my journals and I am the same person, right? Like I look back and I'm like,
journals,
same person in
Twinsies.
there.
Yes.
We've got so much more to talk about.
I know.
But it's so funny to look at that and to think about all these times that I would have the great idea, and I'd go and I'd get to that point, and my fear for what might happen, or the fear of judgment, or the fear of what are people going to think, would stop me before I went to the next thing. A friend of mine said to me recently, and I don't know where the quote is from, so I can't attribute it to anyone, but it was, don't stop before the miracle happens. And I love that. And it literally gave me those chills, because the miracle is actually the part that we're doing it. We've conceived of this thing, or whatever it is, whether it's, deciding to go for a 5K run you've never run before, or, launching a business, or whatever that thing is. But I would kind of freak out before I actually hit go on something. And so I wish I had followed through. And again, I believe in a career portfolio. All things lead us to where we are in any given moment. So this is the thing. But I actually felt it like last week, as the website was going to start to go live and the speakers were going to start, and I did one of these, and I actually had to kind of take myself off, be a bit of a marshmallow, and be like, all right, chill out, go for a walk. It's all okay. You can keep going. But that would be the thing that I think, and it still would have taken me 25 years to learn. Let's be clear. I'm a slow roll, but the message has finally landed.
Fair enough. Great. Mandi, over to you to close us out.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the website. Share the website with everybody that you are about to launch, because by the time this airs, it will have just recently been launched.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That my heart just leapt in my chest there. So the website is a simple one. It's keynote.direct. And it is going to be out there. You're going to have we've got 50 speakers all excited, ready to go. So we're going to have them all uploaded on there, and seeing what the website's all about and start to play around. And you know what, as I said, the speaker athlete idea. I would be a business athlete. Like, I want to know how things can get better. I want to hear from our speakers. The power of community is so, so strong. So the goal is for our speakers to be connecting and learning from each other and growing together. And the same thing for the meeting planners. There's awesome opportunities out there for meeting planners to connect and grow together. And I think your community, the meeting planner community, does that already, but how do we start to do it together? So we're not on kind of two sides of the fence. We're actually coming together and going, hey, I have this idea. What about this experience? Hey, you talk about this, how can you bring this into here? So keynote.direct, I love to hear your feedback, and I'm so excited to work with you both. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I feel like we have to have a separate call. There's so much to talk about.
Oh, there's so much to talk about. This is like, we're going to sidebar all these things.
Yeah. But I think if you're a planner or anybody that has meetings and you're listening to this is a really good solution to your speaker problem. If you're a speaker and you're sort of not happy with your current agent or your speakers bureau, or you don't have one, this is a great solution to your problem. So I just think there's a whole bunch of ways that people can work with you, and I'm excited to see you grow. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
You're welcome. We're going to put you back in the green room momentarily. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. We're going to give a round of applause again for our guest, Danielle Sweeney. So there you are. All right. Thank you. Thanks again to Danielle Sweeney for joining us today. Make sure you rate and review the podcast or the video stream on whatever platform you are watching or listening on. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. And with that, we will see you all next week, 4 p.m. East Coast, 1 p.m. on the West next Monday. And we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Adventures in Business. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast on the platform that you're currently listening it on. And don't forget to share it with your friends and anybody that might be as much of the business nerds as Amani and I are. See you next time for another captivating interview.